Hi everyone, welcome to this SUSECON Digital 20 event. My name is Pablo Suarez Hernandez. I'm a SUSE software engineer working as part of a SUSE manager team, where I'm working basically on developing and maintaining SALT and also the integration with the SUSE manager. So today's presentation is titled Running Ansible within SALT, how to smoothly migrate away from Ansible to SALT. You know, at SUSE, we have SALT as a core component on many of our products, like, for example, SUSE Manager or SUSE Enterprise Storage. So we try to push SALT. We think that SALT is a really powerful better alternative for configuration management and system orchestration than Ansible. So the idea of this session is to give you some tools and also some procedures in case that you are dealing in the scenarios where you want to push SALT, but there is already existing Ansible infrastructure there. So let's start from the beginning. People are running Ansible out there. You face customer where you want to push SALT, but they already have their infrastructure defined using Ansible. That means that they already invested time. They need to create all those playbooks. They may even run into security audits. So they invest also money here. And there are a lot of modules and playbooks from the community all around the place. So so that's a reality, but this is also a reality as well, that they usually always face the same problems when working with Ansible. We know that real-time monitoring with Ansible is not really possible. You know, Ansible works with SSH push method. So we have a controller, and then we have our Ansible managed system, and we push actions that we want to be executed. But there is no channel of communication from the system that we manage to our controller to get real-time information. Same happened for event-driven orchestration. We don't have events to react. And of course, scalability. On SSH connections, we cannot do really scale as well as SALT does. So yeah, SALT enables you. All those problems are fixed already with SALT. So in the SALT world, we have the beacons, which are a component on the SALT minion that triggers events anytime that something happens or some state change on your system. And then you can, the reactors on your SALT master side. So you can react to those events and trigger actions. And of course, SALT uses ZeroMQ and also have syndics in case that you want to make more bigger infrastructure and you want to scale this up to really high numbers here. So, but wait, we have a problem. That's the face from a customer when you said, look how SALT does, look how great it is, but then they still have those problems. You cannot simply tell the customer to, okay, just play with SALT, just screw up all your previous work you invest with Ansible and start now defining your infrastructure with SALT, which is a better tool. This is a very hard way. And there was not way to do a stay-by-stay smoothly way of migrating from Ansible to SALT until now. So don't panic. What would happen if we could simply consider the whole Ansible just as a subset of the functionality that SALT provides you? That's the key thing of this ansiblegate module. So this is a new module coming from SALT on the 2019.2.0 Fluorine release, an innovation coming from SUSE that basically allows you to execute Ansible module and operate your Ansible and even running your playbooks using SALT. You can get and you can find the salt package, the fluorine package, as part of the SLE15 and the SLE15SP1. It's included as a base system package there. Then we have also salt in OpenSUSE world, lib, and also Tumbleweed. We already have the newer release of salt, which of course already contains the ansiblegate modules. You can find the package in our OBS if you want. How this works? So there are different ways you can operate with ansiblegate, but this is the simple way. You simply have infrastructure here, some system that you are managing with your Ansible. You are applying playbooks via SSH, and you have your infrastructure already managed. If you just simply install salt on your Ansible controller, then you are, from that moment on, able to manage Ansible with salt. And not only that, but you are also able to execute salt commands on your Ansible managed system, but reusing the channel that Ansible provides you using salt SSH, as we are going to see later. These are some examples. So this is how we call salt on a system that has Ansible installed, and we can do a list which exposes the Ansible modules available there. We can ask for the help of a particular Ansible module, and then of course we can execute that module and pass some data to it. So this is a salt code that is executing Ansible under the hood, the system module under the hood, with some arguments that we pass. If we have a master, it's exactly the same. We can tag our Ansible control node, and then we can ask this node to execute whatever Ansible module. Like, for example, I want to call these zipper modules and say that I want to have the IOTop package installed. And I can also trigger the playbook execution, as you can see here. That was the most basic picture, and this is the more complex one. In this case, we still have our infrastructure, which is managed by Ansible on this side, but we also installed Salt Minion here on those previously only Ansible managed system. We still have our playbooks. We define this part of the infrastructure via Ansible, but having the Salt Minion process also running here will enable us Minion functionality on those nodes. This means we have beacons now. We can trigger events via Theorem queue that reach the master, and we can then also orchestrate based on those events and eventually call and apply even playbook execution on those nodes again. This is an example also how you can reuse your Ansible inventory. Let's say that you have this Ansible managed infrastructure, and you want to use this file, which is the Ansible inventory, where you have all your files defined. And you can just use that for triggering Salt SSH executions, where you pass this file as a raster file, and you can then execute Salt command within those Ansible managed systems. So if you take a look at here, it is a test being a Salt command, but we are just reusing the Ansible inventory. And you can use the grouping that you have in your Ansible for defining the targets. This is really useful as well. So let's see how we could proceed for do this smooth migration from a customer that has Ansible and we want to push it to use also Salt. This is the scenario what we get. An infrastructure where only Ansible is living, where Ansible modules are executed, and we have playbooks that are executed. Step 0, let's try to add just a few grains of salt. We put the salt, install the salt in the Ansible controller, and then we can start doing what this basic scenario allows us, which is operate Ansible using salt and also reusing the salt inventory, the Ansible inventory to make salt SSH call and execute salt commands on those Ansible machines. Okay. I like it. Then the next step. Okay, let's then begin to build up the Sol infrastructure here. We add a Sol master, so now we can, apart from all the rest, we can now trigger execution and manage the Ansible control from a Sol master, and we can have, as we will see in the demo, Salt SLS files that will trigger playbooks. This is a fancy thing. Okay, the customer likes this, and they start now experimenting with Salt. They now have some minions here, right? New minions, new infrastructure that is only managed by Salt, and we keep having this other only Ansible managed infrastructure. Those two can coexist. We can live in this hybrid environment and have event-driven orchestration when, for example, we can trigger something here, and at some point we can trigger the playbook execution of that on that part on a single shot from the Sol master. Okay, I like the idea. Then let's go to the more complex scenario. We keep and allow the customer to reuse all the previous Ansible playbooks to keep managing this part of the infrastructure, but we also played the Sol minions on those previously only Ansible managed systems. That will give us the whole functionality, which means that apart from having this Ansible part here, we are now enable real-time monitoring and driven orchestration because we have beacons here. We can make events to be triggered from here when something happened on the system, so the master can react to that and make, for example, the playbooks to be re-triggered again. So as you can see here, we are not forcing the customer to screw and discard any of the work that they already invested. We are smoothly allowing them to start step by step playing with Salt, see how it works, how they can now solve the situation and the problems they have, and mix all this infrastructure to be managed only via Salt with a single Sol master. Okay, now let's take a look at the demo. Yeah, and you will see ansiblegate in action.
Okay, so let's start now with this demo of the ansiblegate module. So the idea here is that we are going to execute a few commands, calling FuseState, a plus of playbooks, so all using Salt. So you will see, will have an idea how you can operate this module. So first thing we have here is just an SLE15 SP1 system. I have Salt installed on it, so we have here the Fluorine version, and I have already installed Ansible, so we also have Ansible installed here. This is the basic setup, as I showed you, where we can start playing around with this ansiblegate module. So first thing we can already do is, okay, let's just call Salt call in local mode, since we don't have yet any master. This is just a system with Salt installed, and now we can just call Ansible list. This is going to expose all the Ansible available modules that we can execute on this particular system where Ansible is installed. You see the list. Now I want to get some help from the system ping module, which is listed here. Okay, yeah. So Ansible.help system.ping. Keep in mind that this system.ping is a module name from Ansible. System.ping is not a Salt module. Yeah, now we see as a response from this Salt call that this system ping Ansible module, we get some description of the module, and we see, we want to check now which options are available for this module. And this query also the Ansible documentation, and it says that, okay, the system ping module for Ansible has a data parameter option, which we can just pass it, and it's just a type string. So let's then make the actual call to the system.ping. It's like this: ansible.system.ping. is slightly different than the call that we use for a normal Sol module, because we use Ansible at the beginning, and then after Ansible, the rest of the string of the function that we call is basically the Ansible module name. So we can run it like this, and we will get an output from this Ansible system ping module execution. We got it. And we can pass it also some data, like hello from Salt. Let's see what we get. Okay, you see, we have here also this string that we passes when we were calling this Ansible module using Salt. Nice. Okay, let's do something more complicated. Instead of system test ping, there is also a module called packaging zipper, and we can pass it, for example, this package name IOTop, and we want to set the state for this as installed. Okay, so we are using Salt, a local call that is calling this particular module from Ansible, just to ensure that the IOTop package is installed. It says changed false. This is the output from the Ansible execution, but we get it as part of Salt code. We see change false because it was nothing to do, it was already installed. Let's just try with absent. And yep, state absent. Good. Next thing. Let's now switch to this other tab. Here we have another view of the environment. In this particular case, we have on the left side a master, and we have again our Ansible control. I have already registered my Ansible control as a minion here, so I can just perform normal Sol execution on this minion, right? I can also do, of course, what we were doing before. I can call Ansible system ping, because now I'm just using the master to contact this particular Ansible controller. Okay, I have here on my Salt master, I have defined some state, which is my Ansible state. This is a state SLS file where I can also call Ansible modules. So if I apply this state is going to call Ansible and is going to basically execute the system ping module on Ansible that is going to output this information. Let's take a look. So I'm applying that particular state, my Ansible state, to all my minions, which in this case is just a single one. Hey, and we get the output. As you see, this is a state applied output where we are actually getting the result from an Ansible execution. Nice. Okay, let's go a little bit further. Now I'm on the Ansible controller. I have a playbook here. I have an Ansible infrastructure already defined on my ATC Ansible host, which is my Ansible inventory. I have few hosts defined, some grouping, like web servers, and so on. So I have this, and I have this playbook, Apache 2 CentOS 7. This is just a playbook that applied to my Pi 2 host, where I installed HTTPD, rsync, and then I copy some file from my Ansible controller and I deploy those files on this web server host. Okay. If you are running just Ansible, the way to proceed in order to apply the playbook would be to call Ansible playbook, and then you pass the CentOS7 YAML file, the playbook itself. Let's just do it in an Ansible mode. We have Ansible running, contact the host, apply the state, okay, and you get the results, nothing to do. Good. Now I want to do the same, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to call this playbook to be executed from this Ansible controller, but I'm going to do it by Salt, using Salt. So let's say I'm on the master, so I can target my minion, and I can execute Ansible playbooks. I need to pass the playbook path. This is a path on the Ansible controller, which is Apache 2 CentOS7 YAML, right? And I can trigger this. I can execute. Let's see what happened. What we get. Okay, see? This is actually a result from a state from the playbook being applied, where we have all the facts at the very beginning, and then we see the task, the host, okay, and the different commands that were executed, and we get the summary at the end of the output. So this way we are triggering playbooks to be applied using Salt. We can, of course, in the same way that we did for the execution modules, we can also define our state, and we can call the playbooks to be applied as part of a Salt state, more complex Salt state, like this. So again, if I just run state apply my playbook state, this state is going to trigger the playbook execution as well. We should get now exactly nothing to do, basically. It was everything done. Good. Okay. So you see that you can perfectly and easily operate your Ansible controller using Salt. So all the things that you are supposed to do on the regular basis when you are operating your Ansible controller, you can integrate those tags and operation as part of your more complex IT-defined infrastructure using Salt. So as we saw, there are different ways to play and work with this Ansible module, and one of the coolest things you can do is that if you combine the way of Ansible with the way of managing Ansible also with the Salt minion, then on your Ansible controlled node or Ansible managed node, then you will get not only all the benefit of reusing your already existing Ansible playbooks, but you could also benefit from these features that comes with Salt, like for example the real-time monitoring and event-driven orchestration. So for that case, let me switch again to our initial environment. Okay, let me just explain what we have here. On the left side we have the master again. This is just the output from the Salt event bus running on the master. Sorry. Then we have our Ansible controller, and here we have one of those web server hosts, CentOS7, where I am applying the playbook. So on this host, I installed HTTPD when I apply the playbook. I deployed some files, and I have my HTTP server running here. This is the CentOS host, and this is the content of the files that I'm deploying when I apply the playbook. So Sorry. For example, if I just do or overwrite this http://doc.html, this index file, and I switch to the browser, I see that the content was just overwritten. The problem is with Ansible is that we don't have real-time monitoring by default. So there is no easy way I can track, for example, that this file is changed and I need to reapply my playbook. But this is really easy to do with Salt. So let's now mix the two approaches. So I'm going to install here a Salt minion. I already have it. I'm going to just restart the systemd restart Salt minion. Now my Salt minion is running. I see the key on the event bus. So if I go to my master, I see the key is not accepted. I'm going to accept that key. Nice. Okay, I have now my new minion register. Let's just do a test ping. Ansible controller. Okay, the minion, the CentOS minion was not yet authenticated when I triggered the test ping execution. Let's do it now. I get the two answers. Perfect. And let me now show you a few things that I have set up on this particular environment. The first thing I define on SRB pillar, so it's a pillar data. I set for all the CentOS hosts, I set a beacon configuration. This beacon configuration is a beacon which is going to be activated on that CentOS host, and this beacon is basically monitoring this bars www.html directory where I have my HTTP server files, the content of my web servers. It's basically triggering an event on the Salt event bus anytime that a file changes on that directory. Nice. And on top of that, I have also set here on my master configuration a SUSECON particular configuration, which is a reactor. So I'm reacting to those events triggered by the beacon when this particular directory change, and I'm calling to this state to be applied. I have it on SRB reactor, apply playbook XLS. Let's take a look at that one. So I have it in SRB reactor, apply playbook, and this is basically what this reactor is doing. Is this is going to trigger a playbook execution on the Ansible controller for that Apache CentOS 7 playbook. So this means that now that I have my CentOS 7 minion register, where my HTTP server on the CentOS 7 minion is still being managed by Ansible, but now with the power of Salt, we have introduced this beacon and reactor mechanism that give us a real-time monitoring plus event-driven orchestration in order to trigger another playbook to apply if the content of those HTML files has changed. And this is done automatically by Salt and Salt Master scheduling the playbook on the Ansible controller when it reaches the beacon. So let's see what's happened. Let's do the following. First of all, I'm going to just trigger the I'm going to just restore the files. I was just overread the file before I did this test. So first thing, I'm going to do it like this. Call local mode, for example, Ansible playbook. Playbook is on root Apache 2 CentOS 7 YAML. So this is just for restoring what I already had. I'm not doing anything automated at this moment. So we are calling Ansible within Salt. Okay, as you see, there were some changes here, and the content of my files is restored. Okay, So now let's see the automatic part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to again write something on that file, but now that we have the Salt Minion process running on the CentOS 7 Minion, the beacon is going to be triggered, and the reactor as well, and we should see that as soon as I'm doing this, we should see some events coming on this side, on the Salt event bus, and we should see how the files are going to be changed because the playbook is going to be applied. Let's just cross finger and just let's see. So change it. So if I go here, I see you've got changes. We see something going on the Salt event bus where I see Ansible playbooks was triggered, and okay, we got it. Woo! So as you see, the beacon and the reactor triggers again the execution of the playbook. So we give this Ansible managed environment a real-time monitoring and event-driven orchestration feature just by using Salt and reusing the already managed Ansible infrastructure. So yeah, that's what I wanted to show you today on this demo. I hope you have now better understanding on how this ansiblegate module works, how the potential is, and how this can help you when facing customers that are already using Ansible and you want to just introduce them and allow them to easily and smoothly migrate or start playing with and building their infrastructure also using Salt.
Okay, I hope the demo was good for you. So that was all. If in case that you have some question, please submit it or reach me via email. I will try to answer all of your questions. That was it. I hope that you keep enjoying SUSECON Digital event. Yeah, thank you very much. See you.